The Calling in Valencia just wrapped up, and it was won by, spoiler alert, if you don't want spoilers, this is your moment to click off. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking. Gravy Bones, yes, that's right, Gravy Bones, the ultimate necromancer pirate hero, picked up yet another win, and it has begged a couple of different questions that we are going to discuss in this video. But before we do, there are some changes, some developments in this metagame that we really should talk about. So let's go ahead and jump over there and talk about them, starting with, of course, the original day one metagame breakdown. 422 players came to the Calling Valencia, and the top three most represented heroes are exactly what you expected to see. That's Syndra Drakai of Retribution, front and center, alongside of Gravy Bones, Shipwrecked Looter, and Verdance, Thorn of the Rose. Those were the top three, but the hero that has been making up the most ground and now sits at the fourth place most represented heroes is none other than Arachne Marionette, and this was the talk of day two. Now, day one, you're looking at, these four heroes at the top, alongside of KO Armed and Dangerous, Dash.io, Acilio. Those are all heroes that were well represented at Worlds, and heroes that a lot of players view as pretty decent matchups into one or two of those top three decks that you see there at the top. And there's some other cool things that we can talk about within this day one metagame, but I'd rather talk more in depth about the conversion rates that we see into day two, because like I said, the talk of day two was Arachne Marionette. This is a hero that was coming on very strong after Worlds and is really starting to cement itself as an answer to two of three decks in that top three format. And the reason is this. I'll just show you the data right now. If we go over here, Arachne Marionette, this is the data representative of the Calling Valencia after all is said and done. Arachne was actually the highest win rate deck on the weekend. If we sort the data by overall win rate, you can see it's actually the highest overall, and specifically has really strong matchup win rates into both Syndra, which of course is the day one highest represented deck based on who brought stuff, and the third most represented deck as well in Verdance, Thorn of the Rose. It has incredible matchups into those. And then look, it also has great matchups into Dio and into KO. So for all of those players that brought Arachne Marionette on day one, they were rewarded heavily based on how the matchups, kind of ended up splitting out. With Arachne Marionette having positive matchups into those heroes, then they were able to make this 50% conversion rate happen. So going back to, of course, this, it did have a 50% conversion rate. That means half of the players that showed up with Arachne Marionette went on from day one to day two. And then, of course, right behind is 16 more players from the Syndra camp made it into day two as well, but only 20% ended up converting. Other big standout numbers of conversion, you have 44% of the Dash players converting into there, 38% of the Dory players, which was hanging around there in that top. In fact, I'll just put it back up. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. It was the 8th most represented hero alongside of the other warrior, Kasai, which is pretty cool. And 40% of Rhinar Reckless Rampages also made the cut. Yes, the only other hero that had as high a conversion rate into day two as Arachne Marionette was Lyeth, but that was two players and one of them made it into the top cut, which is kind of interesting, but doesn't really have the same weight as the powerhouse that was Arachne Marionette this past weekend. The interesting part about Arachne Marionette too is it's basically playing into the meta. It has two positive matchups into those top three heroes and one very negative matchup, and that is Gravy Bones. It also has a poor matchup into Acilio, which was highly represented. And I say poor matchup, I'm speaking just of the data from this event. But the cool thing is we don't have to just talk about that, because we can actually go and add the data points from Worlds. And in doing so, after we run that analysis, you can see that this actually holds pretty steady, because this is combining the win rates of Worlds and the calling that we just saw. And you can see that the numbers don't change very much. And if you're like, well, I don't believe in that, I can take away the calling that we just included, and you can see that the numbers are still pretty representative of what we saw. Positive win rate, though less so, into Syndra, and positive still into Verdance, negative still into Gravy Bones, and positive still into Dash.io. Now, this deck was not nearly as represented as it is now, and there's a lot to talk about as to why that could be. I think players after a major event like Worlds are looking for perhaps a palate cleanser type deck. And they're also saying, well, this is my opportunity to play decks that I was a little unsure on, or maybe that I didn't have as much practice into, that I didn't have time to put it into that. Nevertheless, if we're looking at 288 matches played, this is the best, most winning deck on the weekend. And how it performed in the overall leading into top 8 was pretty decent. It did get 2 players into top 8. Jacob Clements, one of those players, alongside of Bartosz. Bartosz Dobrowski. I probably just absolutely butchered that, but Bartosz also played Arachne Marionette. But the interesting thing about it all is that it really just came down to Gravy Bones and Dash.io. And Gravy Bones versus Dash.io is one of those kind of toss-up matchups where either player can really just hit the ground running and do some crazy stuff. And from what I heard, because I just tuned in to the very end of the matchup, and then I think one point towards the beginning, from what I heard, it was a crazy game. So I'm thinking about going back and just watching it and casting it like as a video that we could just upload together. So if that's something you'd like to see, you want to see me react to that video, make that known down in the comments below, because I would like to watch that game back and see what all the fuss is about, because apparently it was pretty cool. But Gravy Bones ends up taking it down, and it begs the question, what do they do about Gravy Bones, and heck, even about Syndra and about Verdance going forward? Is there a path forward for those heroes? Because think about this, and this is a whole separate topic that we can touch on at some point, but think about this. Gravy Bones, with the 0.5 multiplier, only got like 25 points from this event, if memory serves correctly. That is not a lot of points. And there's a lot of people that are clamoring for like some sort of a change to those top 3. Like Gravy Bones needs a tweak, or Syndra needs a tweak. Like, what are they going to do to these heroes to make them come down a little bit in power level? Like Syndra, for example. What do they do? Do they just expect it to roll forward? Because we do have a ban and restricted announcement coming down the pipeline on December 15th. And if that is the case, December 15th could bring some bans for Syndra and Verdance and Gravy Bones. So I'm going to tell you what I think that they should do, or what I think they could do. I think you go into Syndra's toolkit and you touch a Chain Starter and a Draconic Maker, and you go ahead and you take Brand with Cinderclaw from her. Now, maybe you don't take all the colors, maybe you just take like reds, or I don't know, something like that, right? But I think you can take some number of Brand with Cinderclaw, because that is a Chain Starter, and it is a Draconic Enabler. It turns the next Chain Link into a Draconic Chain Link, and that will certainly hurt the consistency of a deck like Syndra. Is it a, just a kneecapping, or is it a full-on backbreaker? I think it's more of a kneecapping, and I think that the deck probably pivots and just becomes a little less good while not being so crazy. But the crazy thing is, based on the data that we saw from the calling, if I go back to this screen and then put this back up, I mean, Syndra had good representation on day 1, falls off a little bit on day 2, and then wouldn't you know it, doesn't make the cut in the top 8 on day, well, it is still day 2, on the top 8. It doesn't make the cut at all. So if you're like, is Syndra's stock coming down? I think you have to look at the breadth and the width of the meta that we've been in for so long, for the consistency that she provides, and for the fact that she is protected by the other heroes that are at the top of the metagame. And I would say she deserves, merits, and all the community deserves and merits a bit of a knock on her. So something like a brand with Cinderclaw seems like the good play. And then you also have to talk about Verdance, because Verdance is one of the other 2 or 3 heroes at the top of the list. And how do you nuke Verdance? This is the one that I'm most curious to see what they do, because like if you just take her combo pieces, like more of her combo pieces, does the deck still survive? Like if some people are saying you just take Rampant Growth Life. That seems drastic. That seems really drastic. Like, Gravy Bones lost a glue card in Golden Tipple, and Syndra could lose a glue card in Brand with Cinderclaw. Rampant Growth Life is not really a glue card. It's more of like the big thing she does. You're losing the spike turn. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what they need to take. But to me, this feels pretty drastic for a hero that is definitely very strong at the highest levels. But again, just like I said with Syndra, did not convert, as my screen goes crazy, did not convert into the top 8 of the most recent calling. So again, recency bias. Oh, she's not good anymore. I don't think you can go that route. I think you have to look at the overall win rate of the hero, and maybe you just say Rampant Growth Life is the thing you take. I'm not actually sure what else you take from this deck. I don't think you ever touch Felling or Plow. Maybe you kind of like touch on some of the D-React stuff, because those D-Reacts are really good. But at the same time, Rampant Growth Life makes some amount of sense, but it does seem very drastic. And then, of course, if you're going to touch the 2 of them, I think you also need to touch the hero that just won, Gravy Bones Shipwrecked Looter. And that needs to be in line with the other 2 heroes in that sense. I don't know. I feel like the deck has gotten far less consistent, but it still has crazy spike turns, and it has spike turns because of the same card that existed beforehand. So what if, and just hear me out because I'm a Gravy Bones lover, what if you put back in the Tipples, right? You include Tipple back into the deck. You can play all the different colors of Tipples, but you take away Swells. Like, does that make it better? Like, if you just nix all Swells, even the blue, you take blue Swell, red Swell, yellow Swell, all of them away, and then you put the Tipples back in. You give the consistency base back, but you take away the spike turns. They get more gold, and so they can pitch into more gold, but they're not getting like virtual resources with Swell. Does that do anything, or do you need to take both Swell and Tipple? Or do you just do what so many people are clamoring for and finally say goodbye to your friendly first mate? See, that doesn't feel right to me. Losing an ally just feels bad. Feels really, 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 really bad. But maybe that's the line. I don't know. I think the idea of taking a Swell means a little bit more to me than taking Chum. But something is going to most likely be done about one, if not all of these heroes, to mix this metagame up, because the next set is going to be coming down the pipeline in February, and it is a supplemental set, which really does drastically shift the meta. But the thing about where Flesh and Blood is now, and this is not something that we even talked about with the Living Legends system, but the Living Legends system combined with the amount of tournaments that are now in the circuit means that you don't really ever have the like winter of discontent where no one's playing the game at a competitive level. At this point, it is year-round, all the time. And I think that's a good thing for Flesh and Blood specifically because of what Flesh and Blood is, a competitive TCG first and foremost, but it also means that you have to change the metagame now and not in 2 months when the next set releases. So something is going to change. I do believe it. Let me know what you think is going to change in a comment below. And Gravy Bones picks up another win. What do you think about that? If you enjoyed this type of content and you like a wonderful video to listen to while you drive to work in the morning or are at work and you don't want to work in the morning, please consider supporting the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing and making the number go to the other number. As always, thanks for watching.